Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Brent Hammettner. I lead the U.S. marketing efforts for Dooap. We're an AP automation company specifically focused on helping mid-sized organizations that are using Microsoft Dynamics AX 2012 as well as D365 FO scale their AP departments. Today, we'll be having a conversation on strategies for accelerating your operations towards a modern AP process. And I think this topic is relevant now because over the last couple of months, we've seen more activity in our space from companies reviewing their internal processes and looking for areas in which they can automate, particularly because the organizations that still receive their invoices through direct mail had them piling up at the office while their employees were all working from home. And this change really isn't just isolated to our space, but it seems to be affecting multiple industries. In fact, just a couple months ago, the CEO of Tyson told analysts referring to automating processes, I believe it's not only us as a company, I think the industry will continue to look for solutions through automation. So today, to help us navigate through what a modernization process looks like, I'm joined by Mikko Hytonen, CEO of Dooap. Mikko has over 20 years of experience in finance, and he's held several CFO positions prior to becoming CEO. And before jumping into the individual strategies themselves, if the audience does have any questions, feel free to ask at any point, and we'll go ahead and incorporate them into the conversation. You can go ahead and do that. There's a public chat box on the right of your screen, and then a tab for questions, which is there if you want the questions to be private. So, all right, Mikko, I was hoping you could begin by sharing, really from a general perspective, what does a modern AP process look like to you?
Thanks, Brent. Glad to be joining the webinar, and hello everybody joining today. I think when we're looking at a modern AP process, where it all really starts from is that from the very beginning, it's fully digitalized. What that essentially means that there's no paper involved, and pretty much whatever format you're receiving the invoices in, they get actually converted to a digital format, which the AP automation system can then process in a uniform manner. I think the second important point is that pretty much all the steps that can be automated should be automated, because there are quite a lot of repeating tasks in an AP process. And I guess if a system can know what to do, there's no really human interaction needed for many of the steps in the process. I think really important thing what we also see is that the process should really be independent of the people running the process, because we all know that there are all kinds of mishaps, and we don't really want the process stop because someone is not able to perform a particular task. And I think that has really been true lately, because I think modern AP process is really something that needs to be independent of time and place. So I guess nobody really wants to go to the office nowadays just for the sake of processing the invoices. And I think another important thing there is that you can actually do it whenever you have the time. So it doesn't need to be during the office hours, but a modern system actually adapts to different times when you actually wanna do the things you need to do. I think from the user experience point of view, it needs to be very simple and easy as a process, and I think that goes a bit back to the tools. So I think we all know that in business-to-business software, the user experience isn't always the best, but I think the tools that you're gonna use in modern AP process really need to be something that people actually want to use. I think another important part is that really adapting to the market standard when it comes to accounts payable process. I think we see quite often that many companies have a really particular process, and I think when you're really implementing something new and modern, you need to think if all the steps that you have in your process are really needed. So is there any business value added? Is there any value added to the finance organization and so forth? So clearly, leaving out everything that doesn't really make sense is something that you should be considering when implementing modern AP. And I think maybe last but not least, there are a lot of technologies out there, including Dooap for modern AP automation, that also take advantage of the machine learning capabilities and so forth, what we're having in the system. So I think when selecting a tool and implementing that to the AP process, it makes sense to make sure that you're actually going for something that is really future proof. But I think that's probably how the modern AP process looks to me.
Great. So now regarding the strategies, you've laid out four that are helpful. The first being to embark on a company level digital journey. About 7 years ago, I personally worked at a global energy management company, and at that time there was a big push towards digitization. And it seems like this approach is now in the mainstream. Could you maybe share first how digital are companies already, and why they might want to begin their digital journey if they haven't already?
Yeah, I guess the answer is kind of simple and complicated, because I don't think companies are as digital as they should. I think there are plenty of opportunities for different areas in the business, and particularly finance organizations, where you can actually make your life a lot easier. But for some reason, I still think that there's a bit of hesitation applying technology and really making sure that you're getting the most efficient operations as you can. And I think if we look at it in the wider perspective, and I'm just not talking about the technology companies that are out there, but really looking at the winners out there on the market, companies gaining market share, being the greatest brands. I think they are really embracing new technology and making sure that they are kind of on top of the game. And I think also customers realize that. And of course, AP is something that is probably not that visible to everybody in the company or the customers, but I think it's kind of a very easy way to start your digital journey, because it's a relatively basic process. It's still very much in the core of companies' operations, because that's kind of where it all starts from. If you want to make sure that your expense types are correctly booked, you allocate your cost to the correct projects and so forth, it really helps if you have a tool which can make sure that you can then focus on the possible exceptions, if any. And I think of course part of the finance process is they may not even be that complicated if you're comparing to something else what you're doing in your company. So I would also say that if you don't dare automate your AP process, then I'm just thinking where would you start? Because there are kind of things that have a lot more business impact than AP process, and still we're seeing even very many companies running really manual AP. And I think maybe just to conclude here, I'd also say that modern AP process is kind of a housekeeping issue for finance organizations as well, because if you're really considering yourself running modern operations, I'd say that finance processes are part of that, and of course AP automation is something that I typically use the word no-brainer. So I think relatively simply to automate, and you can see the benefits from day one.
Gotcha. And so the second strategy you mentioned is improving the quality and speed of how your finance organization operates. And this seems like it would be a goal for, I guess, all of finance leaders. Could you first share maybe why this goal may fall through the cracks, and then dive into the benefits of a more agile department?
Yeah, I think quality and speed for sure, that should be on everybody's agenda. And I think overall these tend to go a bit hand in hand, even though we don't always think it like that. But if you're really running high quality processes, that typically means that you got the speed there as well. So things just tend to happen faster when you've taken everything into consideration. And I think when thinking about finance organizations particularly, I think what I see quite often is that organizations tend to be really busy with something, though. So there's always closing the financial year, quarter, month. There are the month-end activities, and it kind of feels like that we're not really spending the time on process improvement. Of course, you need to find the time, but when you find the time, then you will also get the benefits. So I think it's a really good idea just to kind of stop at times and figure out if what we're doing currently does really make sense. And I think looking at the quality and speed overall, that should for sure be on every CFO's agenda, because at least thinking back my CFO days, that was something that I really wanted to be proud of, that the companies were really running modern processes. We got the figures ready pretty much in no time. So I think we sometimes just forget that what are the benefits, and more focus on the kind of fires around us. And maybe to add there one thing that is worth mentioning, I think every finance leader really needs to understand their finance operations and business operations, because I think if you don't have a thorough understanding, you may be a bit hesitant to implement the changes, even though they may be very low risks. So I think that's kind of how I'm challenging everybody, that you really need to have detail enough understanding yourself and in the team what are kind of the items that can be easily improved, and what the priorities should be. And I think when you just look at it, your life just becomes a lot easier when you start fixing some of the process problems. So it's no longer that you're constantly burning the midnight oil, but you actually have a time to focus on the things that you're supposed to do, rather than just putting out all the fires. And I think why this is important as well, that you have a well-oiled machine, because I think in the end finance organizations are there to support the business. And if you're really struggling with the daily routines, like your AP processing or reporting or something like that, it really means that you're not able to dedicate all the time needed to support your business units. And I think again, since we're really promoting AP automation, I think it's really kind of a low risk project and high reward type of initiative, which you can implement in very agile manner. I think there are other items like that, for example, relating to payments and so forth, where you kind of solving relatively simple business problem, but you're getting the results from day one.
Gotcha. And I guess moving on, the next strategy that you had mentioned was business process improvement or efficiency. Maybe you could elaborate on what AP Automation's role in this is.
Yeah. So I think to start with the kind of efficiency part, I don't think anybody really wants to receive invoices if we kind of start from the very beginning. I mean, there are probably people who like to deal with them and process them, but I guess if we get to choose, we're not really fans of any invoices, because that means that we need to pay somebody. But I think in terms of AP automation, if we think about let's say very traditional manual AP process, I think we're just spending countless of hours purely for the data entry, also approving invoices, trying to figure out the exceptions. I think early stage from the process, we may get erroneous data into our systems, and it is just countless hours we're spending in trying to figure out how things should be. And I think this is all a bit of a waste of time. I think we all know that there are true exceptions, like there are invoices that no matter how advanced artificial intelligence you're having in your system, but it just can't figure that out. So I think those are maybe the areas we then want to focus on, but really kind of going back to the normal invoice volume. So I'd say probably 95% out of that should be something that automation can more or less take care of, and nobody needs to worry about that. And I think we all agree that the savings, just because the time we're saving in the process, is pretty much something that will already make your business case really solid. And I think particularly in terms of AP automation, if you're still feeling a bit uncertain of the benefits, or have doubts what's the impact for the overall organization, I think there's always the option to go for trial and see how it looks like, and kind of compare then the results from the trial to your current process. And I think that is also something that we were referring to earlier. Being an agile organization means that you need to have the capability for these trials as well. And I don't really see what could be a better way of starting than actually going with the AP automation.
Yeah. So finally, you mentioned as the last strategy of the four, being opportunistic. And what is it that you mean by this, and how would a finance professional think about approaching their role like this?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think being opportunistic is probably not like a real strategy. But I guess if there are no other ways left, that could be something that you could be trying out. Because when I say opportunistic, what I really mean is that we should be thinking about AP automation really from the risk management perspective. So what could really go wrong if you implement a digital process? Of course, you may think that okay, invoices get lost, they don't get paid on time, but I don't really think that is something you see happening with any modern AP automation tool, because the process as such is pretty standard. And I would also say that kind of thinking about this, there's always the possibility to go back to the old process if for some reason you're not happy with the AP automation you've implemented. I don't think we've ever seen that happening, because you start getting the benefits from day one. But if there's a hesitation, as mentioned earlier, kind of being a bit opportunistic and going for a trial, that's always an option as well. Of course, we all know that trials take time as well, but I think what my preference at least would be that if you want to try something, then you take it very seriously, and if you in the beginning see that I'm actually getting the results I wanted to see, then there's no reason to move on with the process at a wider scale. And also I think for finance organizations, I guess we're not always the best in trying new things, but that is probably something I like to see happening as well, that when we see that there are tools and technologies out there which would really make our lives easier, we just need to be ready to take the step and implement, even though we may not be totally sure of all the outcomes, because when you manage your risks properly, I don't really see any risk left out there. And I think another thing that why being opportunistic may be something that you would consider is that there are obviously budget reasons and so forth which may be holding you back, but when you're able to demonstrate the value and really convince your stakeholders that this is something that we should be doing and will get the value from day one, I'm sure the money will be there as well, because the business case for AP automation is really solid, and that's actually an area that we're gonna dive into in our webinars to come later on during the fall. Really try to explain that where the savings are coming from, and why, as we're saying, AP automation is a no-brainer. So we're kind of gonna prove the point then through a very solid business case going forward.
Awesome. Thanks for these strategies and elaborating on them, Mikko. And we'll now go ahead and give a few seconds for some last-minute questions. If there are none, then we can go ahead and conclude here. But I did want to give an opportunity for the audience to be able to ask some last-minute questions. So I'll go ahead and pause here and wait a couple seconds. All right. Yeah. So I don't see any of those last-minute questions coming in. So I guess we'll go ahead and conclude. And I wanted to thank everyone for joining. If you would like to learn more information about Dooap, feel free to reach out to us. We're at dooap.com. You should be expecting a recording of this presentation via email as well. So I guess thanks, and everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.